Welcome to another edition of What Would Aaron Say? I'm Aaron, this is what I would say. So today's episode is going to be a little different. I'm going to answer a question that I get asked all the time, not just one that I've gotten from a single person. That question is, how do I become a better belter? How do I make my belt better? How do I belt higher, etc.? So there are two things that you need to understand. First of all, belting, what is it? Belting is taking any recipe, higher than it would naturally choose to go. There's a point in the voice where as the chords are lengthening and thinning out that they want to reorganize into something looser, and usually it doesn't connect as well with the chords because they're thinner. There's literally less skin touching than in the shorter version of the chords where the chords are sort of still fat and there's lots of skin to work with. As they thin out, there's less skin to touch, and so you have to do more work to keep the chords closed. That is not naturally going to occur, which is why we were all sort of trained by opera teachers who don't really ever talk about the throat. They talk about the air and the resonance, pretending as though blowing off air and everything will go great, which is like saying to your student driver, just floor it under all conditions and it'll go great. That isn't true. You can blow all the air in the world, and that isn't going to make the chords do any particular thing. Instead, you've got to figure out how to make the chords stay pressure managed, meaning how to keep that closure while they lengthen. I'm going to give you two exercises to play with that on. Number one, first of all of this stuff goes under the heading of don't get so loud. Blowing really hard at the chords causes trauma, which leads to scar tissue, which is a bad thing. We don't want to deal with any of that. That's like nodes, or if they're swollen and you're doing this, then you get hemorrhages and that turns into polyps and pseudocysts. So don't mess with that stuff. Don't mess with that stuff. Let's assume that your breathing system is in good shape and that you're not having a breathing system that is automatically causing you to be chestier than you ought to be. Namely, you're not clenching your upper abs first. You're going with anything else besides that. Anything to blow the air. Blow your SH. Shh. And notice, do you feel like your torso is getting taller or do you feel like you're getting shorter? That's step number one, okay? Now, let's assume that that's dealt with, and I'm going to do a big, intense breathing thing later. But for right now, take a note, any note, and slide it up a third. So like do, re, mi, so like 1, 3, 1. So you're going to slide up a third. Ma. And if that doesn't click into another gear, fine. Take it up to where ma, like run around in the hair. So I would try that note, ma, if that's what it naturally does. Your goal is to slide up and not change to the next register. Most female voices, this is middle C, most female voices will transition, if they don't get louder, into something that goes headier at E, F, or G. Now, if you get louder, you can drag that stuff way up to B's and C's and D's, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about without blowing more air. If you feel that transition, then fine. That's the one you want to work without getting louder. Guys, it'll tend to be more down here. Ma, with an expectation of a transition around here, if you're not getting louder. So ma, that's usually where most guys will experience the first transition. And then you just work that area, not getting louder. Ma, trying instead ma, to hang on to that recipe. That is the beginning of belt. And this is going to happen because of something you do here. It is not a larynx raise. It is a lateral contraction of the chords. Put your fingers on your throat, all along your throat. Ma. And without getting louder, and without your larynx raising, see that you can hang on to that. And if you can't, go down. Ma, until you can work on one that you can handle. Ma is not acceptable. Ma, not acceptable. Ma, that's it. That's how you first begin to build the closure skill that you need to become a better belter. Insta-belt is ruining all kinds of things. People who have to get really loud in order to belt, well then what are you going to do when you got to get quiet? You're, it's going to click out. If you've got the strength that I'm asking you to build, you can keep that closure all the way to the end. All the way to the end. So that's our ultimate goal. Now, here's the cool exercise. You're going to repeatedly start a note over and over and over again. This helps to make sure you don't get louder and louder and louder. You're going to start from something that is headier or falsettoier and move towards something that is chestier. So you're going to pick a note. So you pick a note just above where you've been transitioning. So if then that right in there would be where I would choose. Pick a note just above where your transition is. And then take it from something really, really heady, and then sing that note over and over again, getting gradually chestier. Get that done another time. that's about the 50-50 point. On the other side. Now, connect that. And go back if you'd like to as well. That will get the coordination that you need begun. Since this is a fairly beltable note for girls, that's middle C, if you take the G as your note, and for guys, I would say try this on like D's and E's, like in your upper. So we're basically taking it, if that's the transition for guys, we're taking that note, and if that's the transition for girls, we're taking that note. Of course you can drag this stuff way high up if you want to yell, but the whole idea here is we're not yelling. Some people ask me, shouldn't my throat be completely relaxed? To which I reply, no. It's not about a completely relaxed throat. A completely relaxed throat sounds like, ah. That's not what we're doing. If you ask a ballerina to completely relax, she will fall in a heap on the floor. So it's not about completely relaxed, it's about being optimal. What is the least amount of work that can be done in the most medically ideal way to get the most amount of product? And so that's not going to be a completely relaxed throat. This belting business, where we're doing more throat work than air work, basically is about sparing the skin on the surface of the cords from getting calloused or hemorrhaging, both of which are the results of blowing way too much air for way too long a time, especially when combined with larynx raising, etc. So, no, it's not about a completely relaxed throat. Now, you know you've gone too far if it feels choky. If it feels like a choke at all. If you feel your upper abs clench. If you feel you're getting loud. If you feel your larynx raising. If you feel your chin jutting. Those are all things that are completely off limits. So if your head is sitting still, your larynx is sitting still, and you're able to get across those transitions, you are well on your way to being the most powerful belter there is. Blowing more air, raising your larynx, those are doomed. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So as far as belting for a beginner's kit, that's what I have to say.